Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to just take one more sip of my coffee. I'm going to put it down. Excuse me one quick sec. No, we're good. Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge all those folks that are still here. I see you. I appreciate you. And just thank you for being present. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. So in my kind of the first 7-minute talk is really kind of setting tone, kind of giving folks understanding on, in particular, the values and the spirit of which we work, on how we nest this framework of working, kind of treating the fish in the toxic ecosystem, the fish being African-American males, the toxic ecosystem being our public school system. And to understand and to really embrace that, you have to understand and embrace the values of which we move in our district. And so hopefully in that first 7 minutes, the video and the call response in terms around love, learn, hope, healing, how we get down. And so I'm going to go a little bit deeper to talk about some of the characteristics of the polluted pond. And so this first chart, and I don't want to spend too much time, I'll open with a quick story around when we started the work of African American male achievement in 2010. One of the first things we did in the first few weeks was start a listening campaign. I mean, ultimately, if you want to understand how we need to be and what we need to do in service of children, talk to them. Listen to them. Every time we assess them, they should assess us. And if we lead with humility, we actually will get all the information we really need to authentically accelerate academic performance for them. And so the story I tell, in that first couple of weeks of school, I was a staff of one, and so went out to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools in Oakland. And one thing that was very humbling in the spirit of the condition that we were working in was the response rate. There were 3 things that had over an 80% response rate on the adults, reflective of the adults that children were experiencing. And so the first response rate that had over an 80% response was African-American children, kindergarten through 12th grade, were saying the adults on school campuses were engaging them as if they were bad or they had done something wrong. And again, school had just started. And so I'm a father of 3 sons. For all of us who have children, what you hope when you drop your child off at school is that the adults actually know that someone loves that child and that they see the beauty and brilliance in that child. So it was humbling to know that over 80% of the African-American children that we engaged in that first few weeks of school were saying that the adults on school campuses were engaging them as if they had done something wrong or they were bad. The second response rate for over 80% was that our kings, our African-American male students were saying that adults weren't engaging them. That they would walk by or not talk to them, or they would say hi to some students and not speak to them. That was humbling in the spirit of, this wasn't a child problem, this is an adult problem. And in the spirit of the toxic ecosystem, these were indicators. The other piece that had over an 80% response rate that kind of is an ingredient in this toxic ecosystem was the limited to no access of African-American males on school campuses, in particular African-American male teachers. And I'll talk about how that became the impetus of one of our kind of nationally recognized strategies, our manhood development program, a little bit later. But again, looking at the conditions. The other condition if you look at the picture in terms of harsh discipline, when I came in 2010, we were suspending 1 out of every 10 African-American males in elementary school, 1 out of every 6 African-American males in high school, and 1 out of every 3 African-American males in middle school. And at that point, I had 2 sons in middle school, and I was raising, my wife and I were raising our 4 nieces and nephews, 2 of which were in middle school. And I say that to say, again, a humbling data set that showed the issue wasn't located with the child, it was the ecosystem. Biased curriculum, and so it's interesting, and I say this in all honesty, part of the perpetuation of internalized depression in kindergarten through 12th grade, the prevailing narrative, it doesn't matter if you're in language arts, math, science, history, or your elective classes, is the content is grounded in a white narrative. and all love to my white brothers and sisters, but to the degree of which we are serving children of color, we have to elevate and locate the narrative and contributions of people in color from preschool through 12th grade in language arts, in math, in science, and history, and in our elective courses. We can't just locate that in a 10th grade elective class called ethnic studies, or we can't just celebrate the cultural prosperity of black people in this country in Black History Month. We have to really rewrite our curriculum. So this framing around a toxic ecosystem is an ecosystem that doesn't lift up the cultural prosperity and legacy of people of color. Ultimately, if we're trying to prepare all of our children to be thriving in a global economy, it actually serves all of our children to understand the cultural legacy and prosperity of people of color. So again, the conditions that make up this polluted pond. I also want to talk about this negative, really the discourse around black and brown children. Typically when people ask me to come speak, it's always around the doom and gloom and the deficits of black children or brown children, and really we got to flip that. I made reference in my opening is we can no longer let television tell our vision. If we don't enter conversations around the beauty and brilliance and collective genius of black children, then we're going to perpetuate this self-fulfilling prophecy of children are only going to manage and reach the discourse that we talk about around black children. If it's all, they're the highest suspension rates, disproportionately referred to special ed with emotional disturbances, chronic, if that becomes the discourse, our children are, and our parents are going to meet those expectations that the ecosystem talks about. And so what I want to spend the bulk of my time then is really talking about how we clean the pond. And so one of the strategies in Oakland Unified School District in terms of cleaning the pond is this focus, and I love what my brother John said, around being intentional and unapologetic around the needs of black boys and black children. And I say that in the spirit of it doesn't exclude the experiences of others, but I have to enter in places and spaces and understand clearly what are the culture, the conditions, the adult competencies necessary to accelerate academic achievement for black children. And if I'm trying to look at that through the vastness of universalism, I'm never going to intimately and intricately understand what is to do different to accelerate culture, condition, and competencies that lead to academic performance for black boys. And so some of the things that we do, we use are policy advocacy. So in our 7 years, we've banned zero tolerance discipline policies. We've adopted, now have, an equity policy for the school district, and we're writing the administrative regulations for that now. We no longer can suspend for defiance. So in our audit of referrals in my first couple years, there were Post-its. Kings were sent to the office for standing up, for smiling, because it was perceived as defiance. So we've banned defiance as an act that would warrant being suspended. We've mandated now that all teachers actually use a universal referral form. So we can begin to develop what are the set of strategies that maybe not the whole school, but 3 teachers in one school that are suspending disproportionately African-American males. What are the set of supports that we can now come in at the school level and provide those supports for our children? And then we created the Office of Equity. So this idea of targeted universalism. So we gave birth to this idea, and for those of you interested in targeted universalism, John Powell and the Curran Institute, several years ago, he's now at UC Berkeley, posits that we all in an ecosystem are living in different conditions. Some of us have go to communities, have access and options to many grocery stores, have wonderful, extraordinary access to opportunity, that have access to schools where the principals have been there for a long time and the teachers have been there for a long time. And then some of us live in food deserts. Some of us live in situations where there's violent crime and there's an environmental toxicity that when those children and families show up to school, a universal structure will perpetuate the same sort of disparate racial outcomes because we're not using a targeted strategy. So that idea of targeted universalism was substantiated through the Office of African American Male Achievement, and now we have an Office of Equity. So moving on to a few examples of things that we're doing to improve the conditions. So some of the things I'm going to lift up, one of which our Kepler Career Academy. So for us in the state of California, one of the new ways of tracking were career pathways and academies. And what we found when we started to go to our big comprehensive high schools, the folks that had access to the engineering, the STEM, the mathematical academies were not black and brown children. They were actually disproportionately being accessed by our white brothers and sisters and our Asian brothers and sisters. And so what was to do different? Well, a few things. One of which, the Show to Grow model, we incubated the Kepler Career Academy, focused on startup entrepreneurship, social innovation, and civic engagement. Google invested $750,000 for us to develop this career pathway that was created from an African-centered standpoint, but it was accessible to all students. We're in our third year of incubating that career pathway. Those students are learning coding and have access now to Silicon Valley, but that's one of the things that we're doing to illustrate to the system. I'm going to talk about change the narrative and moving the curriculum in a moment. I'll talk about self and mentoring. Out of classroom, if you see that picture over there, that's me and our Student Leadership Council. So I meet with students every week. They travel with me across the country and talking about cultural humility, differentiated instruction, Common Core, the things that I talk to you all about. The ultimate test of empowerment is having our children talk about that. But we went to Hamilton a few weeks ago, and I want to thank the Golden State Warriors Foundation for making that possible. Oh, love, give them some love. And Hamilton is another way of learning history through hip-hop, and we use a lot of that as well, so that was a great play. And the Student Leadership Council, we will be presenting, 15 Kings will be presenting at the University of Texas in Austin, Texas. Texas, did I get it right? There we go, thank you. And they have a 3-hour presentation, the Coalition of Schools Educating Boys of Color. We've been presenting in that conference for the last 4 years, and it's all student-led. So some of the best practices, I talk about changing the narrative. Well, one of the ways to change the narrative, our kings actually produce the Kingmaker magazine. It's actually created by one of our former alumni, Ice Life, who was a spoken word artist and was signed by Def Jam when he came out of high school. He got away from Def Jam because he wasn't into kind of the toxic perpetuation of misogynistic, these stereotypical aspects of masculinity, and has been doing amazing things around African-American malehood development and working with us around a magazine that our kings co-write and produce. We have 7 courses that are aligned through Common Core that meet in the state of California. In order to graduate, you have to graduate fulfilling the A through G graduation requirements. So we have now 3 language arts courses written from an African-centered perspective that all of our high schools offer. We have 2 history courses. We have 1 arts course, and we have our kind of through-line course from 3rd grade through 12th grade. It's called Mastering Our Cultural Identity, and that's really the course that takes our kings on this journey of personal transformation, unlocking their own history, that it didn't start with slavery, that the origins of all humanity actually start in the motherland of Africa, and then it branches off from there. But it's an extraordinary rites of passage curriculum that now is offered Monday through Friday, taught through African-American male teachers, all aligned through Common Core, and we go deep around reading complex texts and academic discourse. And so those courses are being taught 4th through 12th grade, are Mastering Our Cultural Identity. The rest of the courses are 8th grade and high school. We do man-up conferences, so we also provide opportunity, generational places and spaces where black men and boys and other folks come on for a day of really food, fun, and fellowship. We do 2 to 3 of these a year, and it's another way outside of the district that we access brothers in the community, provide them an opportunity to come together around a theme. This last theme was Your Health is Your Wealth. We've done Read to Lead. We've done the Me I Can Be. So every Man-Up conference has a particular theme, but it's an opportunity for a school district to ritualize the coming together intergenerational groups of black men and boys in service of black children. And it's been another way to actually show how we approach instructional pedagogy through play, through group work, through interactivity that's authentic as well. So the manhood development class. So we've been able to double the amount of African-American male teachers. When I came into the district back in 2010, HR department said, well, we can't find any black male teachers. And I said, well, there's black male teachers all over the place. Have you checked out your coaches? Have you checked out your after-school programs? Have you gone to the barber shops? There's many places and spaces actually where there's extraordinary black men doing extraordinary things in their community. The pivot, though, was being able to see them as an educator. So we have this mantra, we hire for attitude and train for skill. I can't train people on how to love and see the beauty and brilliance in black children. That we interview and screen for. But if I know that you see the innate greatness in our children, I can work with that. And we have tons of, PD, as our predecessor wasn't big on PD, if you have the right attitude and the will, we have all the necessary supports to ensure that you can create a classroom environment where there's rigor and there's an approach where the collective of the students in that class will be able to work with each other to manifest their best self. So a couple things I'll lift up on are we have a student-centered, academically rigorous classroom. We don't do classroom management, we do leadership development. So we refer to our students as kings, not as students, and just the mere word of a king. If you go to our Kingmakers of Oakland website and check out that video documentary series, Romero, one of our kings, will talk to you about the first time a teacher referred to him as a king and what that did to his heart, what that did to his spirit. More often than not, our kings are more comfortable with other words that aren't empowerment words, but actually words that are deficit or negative. And so we got to flip that script, and in Oakland, we refer to our students as kings. We build off an asset model, and we use qualitative and quantitative data to substantiate our work. A few other things I'll lift up. We use the I do, we do, you do model, which was lifted up as a best practice. Relationships are a key form of asset, so it's not and so one of my challenges with SEL tends to be, it tends to validate a Eurocentric value system. The values of which that we embrace is a we and us. And so to the degree of which every king sees themselves in each other and helping each other to support each other, we can go farther, faster in the ways that we learn and experience. We also understand that our kings have the ability and intellect and skill to be great. I'm in the home stretch because I want to close with a video. So some of the data that we've seen, a 47% reduction in suspension rates across the ecosystem, the citywide reduction in incarceration rates for African American males has been a reduction of 40% over the course of the last 5 years. We've doubled the amount of African American male teachers in our district, and our retention rate of those teachers is 92%. And the retention rate of teachers in our ecosystem who are non-black are 46 to 52%. So what are we doing a little bit differently to retain our teachers? Actually has implications on the entire system. We also now have a culturally relevant curriculum being offered 3rd grade through 12th grade. For the kings that participate in our program versus the kings who don't, it's a 1.13 higher GPA. Again, an increase in graduation rates by 20%. Even the media has changed how they talk about our work. Back in the day, black boys seek bleak future at school too. In 2015, every black male student in Oakland can be a king. So how we work with our local media to tell the story of beauty and brilliance has been one that we've held them accountable. We were acknowledged in 2015 for Ed Week, and I'll close with this video with one of our partners, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement.
My name is Toussaint Lamont Stone. I am 18 years old, and I'm from Oakland, California. I've been going to public school my whole life. So I've had friends from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I have a story to tell you from every grade year. It's like, it's always somebody not making it. Family problems, kicked out of school. My friends have been to jail for things that I've done with them. Like, I knew Donovan since about the 3rd grade. Once he got out, it wasn't the same. Somebody that I've known for so long that I know has the potential to be somebody oh so great is sitting with no more motivation. They just suck all the motivation out of your body before you even are old enough to make a difference.
I talk to and encounter too many young black boys who are hyper aware of the fact that their humanity is debated, that they go to classrooms with educators who don't believe that they're capable of doing wonderful things.
Black children are more likely to be suspended, more likely to be arrested in school. What we've seen over the years are young men being pushed out of school and into a pipeline to prison instead of into a pipeline to college and success.
This is final exhibition at Met West. Let's get some energy going.
I'm finally a senior at Met West High School, ready to graduate.
To watch you go from this transformation of like struggling who I am in the world to being king Toussaint Stone. I'd like to say I take just a little credit, but you can't have transformation unless you commit to something. And you committed to something, brother. I'm the founding executive director of African American Male Achievement for Oakland Unified School District. Our office was created to improve the educational outcomes of African American males from preschool through 12th grade, as well as disrupt the type of structural racism that we're perpetuating, low expectations, this achievement gap, and a feeling of inadequacy.
We as black boys gravitate to the black men in the schools, definitely. I interned in the office for 2 years now. Baba Chris is like a second father to me. I see myself as a leader. He saw me shine in my light. He's showing me how different I am compared to what everybody expects me to be.
Oakland was one of our early entrepreneurial investments. It's created the first of its kind department of African American Male Achievement inside a school district.
Now I'll be moving into my senior thesis project. I was focused on curriculum building. It's definitely a passion for me. I've been interested in Black history since I popped out the womb.
Part of the perpetuation of internalized oppression and why there is an achievement gap is the prevailing narrative in public school education is a white narrative.
Like at first, if you're just so used to being called the N-word, you might hear king and it might catch you from surprise. Like, it's just realizing who you are, where you come from, the wealth of our heritage, the wealth of our ancestry is like, we so much more than what they try to give us credit for.
So I guess, yeah, the main things we wanted to go over for this were the final steps for closing out your academics, college next steps.
I wanted to go straight into a 4-year.
Of course you did.
And then reality just started hitting me from every direction. Because I'll be stepping out of my comfort zone.
Growth is uncomfortable.
So I did community college 3 years. I wasn't ready to transfer, just me. Emotionally, I wasn't ready. Study skills, I wasn't ready. So actually, community college for me at that time was a great strategy.
Just know that you have the support underneath you for whatever decision you make for yourself.
It's hard for me to make a decision though, like it really is.
You cocky as hell. But it's okay, we see it, you right? We just want you to be wise.
That's right, yeah.
Know where you want to go, and that's what we're going to help you get.
It's important for us to start thinking about high school excellence and thinking about education as a vehicle to start measuring how we're succeeding.
We reduced suspension rates by 44% as a school district. We've increased the graduation rate now by 20%. For the kings that are in our manhood development classes, the grade point average has increased by 1.13.
Schools, families, the communities, and leaders. We fundamentally believe that if you get those 4 folks engaged in this work, you're going to see exponential growth, not just in graduation rates, but their ability to function in college, career, and community.
5 years from now, we want to be able to point to some key cities where we say, this is how you win when it comes to Black male achievement.
Toussaint, a once and future king. Sometimes the crown can feel too heavy and burdensome. Sometimes the crown is too light to even notice it's there. But always, the feeling of purpose is deep in his footsteps.
I feel like my name showed the way I'm supposed to carry myself. A warrior, freedom fighter. I cannot be beaten. It's like I know all the odds are stacked against me, but when I'm stacked on the top of the shoulders of my father and Baba Chris and Amari and Syro, I'm taller than a giant, man. I'm not tripping off of nothing.